Hey everybody, welcome to Cara's Cucina. I'm Cara Di Falco, and on this channel we encourage everyday people to live healthier by inspiring them to cook delicious food at home. We are celebrating spring in today's episode, and I'm going to show you guys how to make my great-grandmother's spinach gnocchi. I was really excited. We actually found this recipe like in an old recipe book. So it's not necessarily one that I have memories of. We really didn't make this a whole lot, but I took the recipe, took it home, worked on it, and it works out just fine. So now I'm gonna be sharing it with you. And I'm excited because it comes with its own sauce. It comes with the Parmesan cream sauce. I'm gonna show you guys how to do that as well. The dough itself is really simple, very similar to a potato gnocchi. In fact, we're gonna be using potatoes. So it's about a pound of potatoes and a half pound of baby spinach that we have here. So the first thing we're actually gonna do, I've already washed these potatoes, but we're just gonna pierce them with a fork all over. And then we are going to bake these in the microwave. That's really more than anything for time, but also it does kind of help in terms of the moisture level of the potatoes. So you wanna just nuke them on high power for about 4 minutes on each side. So 4 minutes and then we'll flip them over and do another 4. While our potatoes are cooking, we're also gonna start to cook down our spinach. So look, it looks like there's so much spinach here, right? It's like overflowing the bowl. But once we get it all cooked, you're gonna be really surprised at how little there actually is. So we're just gonna start putting some handfuls of this into our pan over medium heat. And just to prevent it from sticking, I'm just gonna put in a little bit of water. We'll let that start to cook and wilt down. As it wilts and there's more room in the pan, we'll just keep adding more spinach. Once your spinach is cooked and wilted down, and look, that whole big bowl of spinach, and we have just this little bit that's in here. So this is gonna go right into the bowl of our food processor because we're gonna chop it up and start to puree it up. So what you'll notice in this particular pasta recipe is there's no eggs and there's really no water. So this is really where the moisture is coming from. And if you watched my beet ravioli recipe, similar situation. So where we made the beet puree for the pink color, this is going to be a spinach puree for the green color. Our spinach is pureed. We're just gonna leave that set aside for now. Our potatoes finished cooking as well. So we are going to get these on the board here so I can use my paper towel for scraps. We're just gonna cut them in half. Be careful, they are still hot. And we are just going to carefully start to peel them. And I always remember my great-grandmother was able to do this like she didn't feel a thing. She could do them while they were scalding hot, but it's okay to wait a few minutes if you have to. But the skins should come off pretty easily, just with a knife, and you can just peel them away. And then the other thing, what we're gonna do with these once I have them peeled is, this is a ricer. So it kind of has like a strainer piece in the bottom, and then it's just a little press. So we're gonna put the potatoes in here and we're gonna rice them right into our bowl. Once your potatoes are peeled and quartered, we can start putting pieces in through the ricer. I can get mine to line up. When you get down to your last potato, you kind of have this bit of a mess left in the ricer, but you can just take your knife and kind of scrape the rest of it in, kind of fluff the inside a little, if you will, and you should be able to get the rest of this out through the bottom for the most part. These little pieces that hang out on top can go in. They've been pretty smushed. Last little bit. Okay. To our potatoes, we're gonna add about a teaspoon of salt, or basically a generous pinch or two. We are gonna get our spinach puree in there. So in this recipe, there's no eggs and there's really no water. So it's the spinach and then the moisture from the potatoes that's really gonna hold everything together. But it's like anything else, you know, potatoes come with different moisture levels. So you'll have to kind of see as you start to make your dough what the texture is and if you need a little more flour or a little bit less. And of course, we have to thank our friends over at Caputo. They're always giving us the best products for pasta and pizza. So today we're actually using their chef's flour. And I will of course hook you guys up with a link in the description below so you can grab some for yourselves. But we'll get this spinach in here. So we're gonna start with about a cup of flour. And I'm putting everything in the bowl because I'm just gonna begin mixing this with my hand. And then once it all kind of comes together, we'll pull it out and finish it on our board. But just gonna get in here, very gently, carefully start to mix everything together. Like all fresh pasta, there is no way your hand is not getting messy. Once you've gotten your dough mostly together in your bowl, we're gonna turn it out onto our work surface and just knead it till all these little pieces come together. And if you have a pasta hand and it bothers you, you can always take a little flour, rub them together, get all those pieces off, and just get it all incorporated into your dough. And with any fresh pasta, we want a nice, smooth, consistent dough. So I'm gonna knead this a little bit longer. It shouldn't be too sticky. So again, depending on the moisture level in your potatoes, how much water was in your spinach, you might need to add a little more flour. So I've already added a bit more to this. And as always, just keep a little bowl of extra flour on hand. You can sprinkle your work surface as you go, you sprinkle your hands as you go, and just continue to get this kneaded until we have all these pieces incorporated in here. So our dough has come together. It's nice and smooth. I'm just gonna kind of shape it into a little bit of a ball. Doesn't necessarily matter. But see, put our finger in, nothing's really sticky, but it's nice and soft, easy to work with. So that is what we were looking for with any fresh pasta dough. It has that beautiful green color from our spinach. So this is great just for spring, for Easter, for St. Patrick's Day. Who doesn't want St. Patrick's Day pasta? That sounds like a much better plan to me. So we are gonna get this covered with a dish towel, and we're gonna grab a knife and a fork, and I am gonna show you 2 different ways to form these gnocchi. Before we start forming our pasta, we just wanna get our work area prepped. So I've got some cookie sheets here, and we're just gonna give them a generous sprinkle of flour. This is where our formed pasta is gonna go. So we'll have that all ready for ourselves. Again, still keeping that bowl with a little extra flour nearby. And our dough is just covered by our kitchen towel here. This is that doesn't dry out, stays nice and soft so we can continue to work with it. So like I said, I'm gonna show you guys 2 different ways to form these gnocchi. And it's really interesting because one way is the way that my family always did it. So I'm just gonna take a slice off. The inside's gonna be a little sticky, so a little more flour. And then, but when we found this recipe, it actually said to form them in a completely different way that we'd never done before. And I tried both ways. And actually this other method creates a really delicious shape and it goes really well with the sauce. But I feel like you need helpers to create it because it's a little more complicated than just making regular gnocchi. So we're still gonna roll this snake out like we would. About a 1/2 inch, or as thick as your thumb. And we're just gonna cut small pieces. A lot of people will stop here, especially a lot of restaurants. They don't actually bother to finish forming them. Makes me a little bit crazy. But, so the way that I read when I found this recipe was to actually then take the pieces and just kind of press them in your fingers until you get a small round, so about an inch to an inch and a half round piece of dough. A little sticky, add some flour. This was the end of that pasta snake, so it's a little bit of a wonky shape, but the idea is once it's flattened into a round, you just take the two sides and fold them in towards the center. Just gently give it a little pinch. So it almost makes, to me it looks more like a cavatelli, but the recipe, I'm gonna show you guys the picture. It says gnocchi, but this was how it said to form them. And like I said, this makes a really delicious shape and it goes really well in the sauce because it's nice and light, kind of sauce gets in there. But if you're by yourself forming pasta, I still recommend using the fork, put your tines down on your work surface, and then you're just gonna take your pillow and start at the top of the fork and gently use your thumb to roll it down. And that's gonna give us that more traditional gnocchi shape that we know, that's got those ridges on the outside and that little scoop on the inside to hold all of your sauce. So whichever one you wanna do, of course, you're welcome to do either one. As I always tell you guys, it's your food, your meal, you make it however you like. But I do think, and it might just be that I'm more practiced in forming them this way, so I've gotten it down to a point where I can do it rather quickly. But I'm gonna form these in the traditional sense using the fork. Once you've formed all your dough, I'm gonna show you how to make the easiest sauce for this. This is really delicious. So the original recipe actually just calls for Parmesan cheese and heavy cream, but I have a bad dairy allergy. So in order to reduce the cream, I'm actually kind of swapping in some butter. I realize that butter is also still dairy, but for some reason it doesn't bother me as much. So, and I'm just gonna show you guys how to make one quick plate, but in the written recipe at caradifalco.com, I'll give you the whole shebang. But again, it's really just butter, Parmesan cheese, and some heavy cream. And I've got our water coming to a boil as well. And again, with fresh pasta, once you put it in, a nice rolling boil, as soon as it floats to the top, it's ready to go. So in the meantime, we're just gonna get our butter melted. And to that, we are just gonna grate our cheese right on in here. Can be very generous here. And this, I'm just gonna let hang out for a minute while get this boiling, we get those gnocchi cooking. So with any fresh pasta, it's only gonna take about 2 to 3 minutes to cook. So again, once it floats to the top, it's pretty much ready to go. And we're gonna finish it in our sauce. So as those start to come to the top, I just have a couple of tablespoons of that heavy cream that I'm gonna add to this, and this is all going to come together into a really delicious sauce. And it's really rich, which is nice though, because the gnocchi are nice and light, so it kind of all works out well. This is gonna need a little more cheese. Almost like a bechamel or even an Alfredo sauce that we would know here in the States. Kind of along those lines. There we go. Gnocchi floating, beautiful. We're just gonna drain those right out. We want some of that pasta water to drip in as well. That's gonna kind of help everything cling together. Man down. Okay, got those out of there. And we'll just let these, this is just on low heat, just give them a minute to kind of hang out in here for the sauce to come together, coat the pasta nicely. Once everything has come together, we're just gonna go right into our pasta bowl. A little more cheese on top. and some nice cracked black pepper. Serve your pasta again with that extra sprinkle of Parmesan, some fresh cracked black pepper, and for whatever spring holiday you are celebrating this month. Guys, as always, the recipe is available at caradefalco.com. You can follow me, Facebook and Instagram at Cara Di Falco for all my foodie adventures. I will see you guys next time. That's it for this week in the Cucina. Buon appetito.